he give you a very expensive take for a cheap price in all the sports. And it could be something we talked about already. It could be something that we want to dive into it further, or we just haven't covered it, and it deserves to be on the show. And whoever want to go first, the mic is y'all.
Oh,
all right.
I can try and go first. My take for 99 cents is the Kansas City Chiefs are reaching a very eerily territory from the Minnesota Vikings 2 years back. I believe 2 years back when they were winning all those games by one score games. This Kansas City offense has been very, very subpar to say the least. I think you can make the argument both sides of the football have not been good at all. But somehow, in some way, they're finding ways to win football games. And you're looking at every instance that they win by a field goal, win by a touchdown, win by this, win by that. And it just looks like everything is just going their way. And I think it's going to crash and burn in the playoffs. I think if they continue to play the remainder of the season in such a fast way, they're barely scratching through the surface and they're barely winning games. And as long as their record is good, that's all they care about. They're going to play some demons in the playoffs. They're going to play teams that really won in the trenches, that played some tough games and really endured and conquered. It's like the Buffalo Bills, like a hardball team that's fighting hard every damn game, like the Chargers, or a surprise team like the Sean Payton Broncos. And they shock somebody like the damn Chiefs and going past the playoffs. Not saying it can happen, not saying it will happen, but it's a possibility because all these teams in the AFC are really going through the trenches in every game that they win. A lot of these teams, it's interesting what's going on here. But the Chiefs, every time you watch them, it seems they're aloof. Like they're just looking at the stars, playing the game, and knowing that when it comes down to the fourth quarter, the last minute, they're going to win the football game. By these weird situations, like a kicking off the damn post and going in, or a penalty, or something else. It's wild how these Chiefs somehow, some way, find ways to secure wins, just like that Vikings team 2 years ago. And I think just like that Vikings team, they're going to crash and burn at home against a team they have no business losing to. And that's my take for 99 cents.
You can't keep getting away with it. You can't keep getting away with it. You won't.
Zay, that's not for you. That's for the Chiefs, by the way, just for clarification. Zach, if you want to respond to that, by all means.
Yeah, Zay, when you say that, man, I just feel like you are saying they're going to be one and done in the playoffs, because that's exactly what happened to the Vikings. And keep in mind, it's looking like they're going to get the number one seed right now. So that would mean they lose to a team like Denver, or a team like Houston, or a team like the Chargers in the first round. And I just don't think that's going to happen. Like, we have no evidence that that's coming, because the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. They have Andy Reid as their head coach. And I just think they found a certain formula where they play ball control on offense. They like to run the ball, take up as much as the clock as possible. And they know that even if they're losing late in the games, they're going to find a way to win because they have Mahomes. We saw that a couple big third downs on Sunday night. And the thing about the playoffs is every single game is close. No matter who's playing, it's going to come down to a few plays here and a few plays there. And I just don't know how you pick against the Chiefs in a close game, because all they do is win close games. And it's honestly insulting to compare them to that Vikings team, because we knew that Vikings team was a fraud. This Chiefs team has won the last two Super Bowls. They're 11-1 right now. They clinched the AFC West. And that kick was crazy, but if they have Harrison Butker, which they will by playoff time, we know that kick is going in no problem. So to compare them to the Vikings, I think you're saying that they're going to be one and done in the playoffs, and I just don't see that happening.
All right, Zach, I would like to go with my take. I'm actually going to mention the Chiefs in it, so I think it's a good transition. I think for me, everybody is silent when analytics in the NFL is working. Okay? When aggressive coaches go for it and are unsuccessful, and it costs a team a win, especially in a prime time affair, that's a topic of conversation. Analytics, I don't like it. I hate it. F you, you know. But the reality is, on Thursday Night Football, the Lions, and I ain't lying, they went for it 5 different times, okay, on fourth down, in their 34-31 win over the Packers, including a 4th and 1 from the Green Bay 21-yard line with 43 seconds left to go in the game to make sure that Jordan Love did not get the ball back. He didn't get the ball back. They won the game. And prior, actually a couple of days later, Sean McVay. He took a page out of Dan Campbell's book, and we always knew that his fatal flaw was his game management, particularly when it comes to timeouts and sometimes his conservative game planning. But he wasn't conservative against Josh Allen, the MVP. Okay, we saw, him playing like a phenom. 3 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns. Sean McVay was like, we can't punt him the ball back. No, the Rams went forward on 4th and 5 from Buffalo's 35. With 3 minutes left to go in the game and leading 38-35, they put the game out of whack. Ain't no coming back. A few years ago, Nick Sirianni ran analytics all the way to the Super Bowl, and the moment that he punted the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, they lost the Super Bowl. Okay, no, what are you doing, prick, Sirianni? Okay, Dan Campbell, did I mention him? I did. I'm going to mention him again. Last year, he ran analytics all the way to the NFC Championship game. And we forget that Josh Reynolds on 4th down, maybe you want to catch that ball because maybe you go to the Super Bowl. Okay? The one team that the Chiefs lost to this year, we talk about all the close games that they won all year. The one team that beat them was the Bills. And guess what? Josh Allen iced the game by going for it on 4th down. Hello? Why nobody talking? Why is all you conservative pundits quiet? Okay, that's how you win the game. Why y'all not talking? Okay, and the reality is, in order to beat the Chiefs, because that's a big conversation. Will the Chiefs three-peat? Well, guess what? You cannot be conservative against them. You're going to have to be aggressive. Analytics is going to play a big role in stopping the Chiefs three-peat, and that's my take for 99 cents.
And I think you saw that with the Rams the other day, right? Going for it on that 4th down late in the 4th quarter when they were down by 3. I believe it was like a 4th and 5. McVay dialed up a great play call. They ended up scoring, and I think that was a big reason why they won the game. McVay knew he didn't want to give Josh Allen the ball when he only had a 6-point lead, and that ultimately ended up paying off for him. But, Lil, I'll ask you, what did you think of that Dan Campbell call on Thursday? Because it worked, so we're going to praise him for it, but that could have been disastrous because you see Jared Goff stumbling and almost falling down. He could have lost in the game. There was a lot of conversation about that. Was it the right call? Was it reckless? I know they won, so it's easy to give him credit, but especially for a guy like Dan Campbell, who we know a big concern of him is does he get too aggressive at times? What did you make of that call? And also, what do you think about Dan Campbell and his approach in the playoffs? Is that something you're ultimately concerned about when it comes to the Lions and their Super Bowl aspirations?
Yeah, I think that play is everything I'm talking about in this take in a nutshell. Had Jared Goff was not smart enough to hand the ball off while falling down, and they would have lost that game potentially because of that play, that would have been the topic of conversation on Friday morning. That would have been the headline of every show from First Take to Undisputed and all the shows y'all watch. That would have been the headliner. Dan Campbell cost them the win, right? But because they won it that way, everybody is silent. Nobody's talking about it. And I think the way how the Lions operate, they already know that they have 4 downs. That's how their coach is entrenched in their spirit. Nobody has gone for it more than Dan Campbell over the last couple of years. It's part of their identity. Just like how with the tush push with the Eagles, how we know that on 4th and short and 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, that's what they're going to do. We know that Dan Campbell's going to go for it. Now, when we get to the playoffs and how that factors in, I do think that you do have to have a level of feel, but you can't change midway that late who you are. You got to stick by what you know and what got you there. And if your players don't execute, that's what it comes down to. Players executing, that's what it always came down to. You got to execute the game plan. That's how you win the game. If it comes down to that, then you take the heat and you die on your sword. But you got to be who you are. And I'm not worried that Dan Campbell's going to be anything different than who he is. All right, Zach, you up.
All right, so for anyone who missed it, last week, my take for 99 was built around quarterbacks, and it was kind of a 2-part take, but one of the takes was I thought that Carolina should bring back Bryce Young as their quarterback next season. I thought that he had shown us enough, and this is prior to last week. He played great, I thought, against the Eagles. I thought he looked great, and I'm feeling good about this take. But I'm going to go in the opposite direction right now, and I'm going to give you guys a quarterback that I think their current team should be shopping. And if I was a fan of this team, I would want to trade this quarterback. in the offseason, and that is, of course, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. I think if I'm Arizona, I would be all in on trying to trade Kyler Murray this offseason, because I watched that game on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks, and I just thought it was a huge game for Arizona, right? We saw 2 weeks ago Arizona go to Seattle. It was a back-and-forth game. Neither offense was really going early, but it was very evident to me early on in that game that because Arizona's offense was not clicking, Kyler had no interest in being there, and I just wanted to see more from a guy that is as talented as he was. We saw him against Minnesota. Arizona had a chance to win that game. They couldn't get it done, and I thought Sunday it got even worse. Kyler led them down the field for a nice touchdown drive to open that game, and then the offense was silent for the rest, and Kyler threw a couple bad interceptions in that game, and if you look at the NFC West, it's a very close division. You have the Seahawks. They won on Sunday. You have the Rams. They won on Sunday against the Bills. Even the 49ers, a team that has really struggled throughout the last couple weeks, they put together, I thought, their best performance of the season on Sunday against the Bears. So the Cardinals are the only team in the NFC West that lost on Sunday. And it really hit me. Like, the Cardinals drafted Kyler Murray because that was the guy that Cliff Kingsbury wanted. Like, the reason for drafting Kyler was to pair him with Cliff and give him a guy that would call plays he was familiar with. And they thought that would be a nice mix, pairing a guy that was coming fresh out of college at coach and quarterback. And when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, I just don't think the Jonathan Gannon, Kyler Murray combination at head coach and quarterback is going to be something that they could win big with. And I really like Jonathan Gannon. I think he's done a great job with this Cardinals team. I think their defense has been a lot better than I've expected. And I just think that if I'm Arizona, there are going to be so many teams in the offseason looking for a quarterback. And there are only 2 quarterbacks in this draft that I think have a legitimate shot of starting from day one. It's Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Those are only 2 guys. I think there are going to be a lot more teams hungry for quarterbacks. And I do think at one point, we remember, like, that Kyler contract was not looking good. I still don't think it's the greatest contract, but I do think there will be teams this offseason willing to give the Arizona Cardinals a first-round pick in return. And if I was Arizona, I'd hop on that. And also, I'll say this, guys. When we were talking about Sam Darnold and his resurgence with the Vikings, there's one thing with that topic I didn't mention. There was actually a report that came out prior to the game on Sunday. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but the report said that the Vikings have not done any negotiations with Sam Darnold when it comes to an extension after the season. So it's looking like the Vikings have no interest in bringing Sam Darnold back. And I'll ask you guys, if you put Sam Darnold on the Cardinals right now, are they a better team than they are with Kyler Murray? Because I think you could definitely make the case that they are. And I think Arizona would be willing to pay Sam Darnold, and they would get a first-round pick back for a bad contract. So if I was Arizona, I would be willing to move on from Kyler Murray this offseason and get some good draft capital back.
I kind of want to respond real quick to that statement. I think that the Cardinals are so reliant on Kyler Murray's freestyle play that it is going to be very difficult for the next quarterback to come in and replicate wins for that Arizona team, because most quarterbacks in the NFL is based on they need a scheme, they need a structure, they need a good offensive coordinator to make plays. In Kyler Murray's case, he makes plays by himself with his ability to run on the ground, his ability to escape the pocket and throw the ball basically wherever on the football field, running, opposed to staying planted. And I think if you put Sam Darnold on that Arizona Cardinals team, a lot of the structure and a lot of the opportunities to make plays that he has on the Vikings and is essentially removed when he goes to Arizona. It's going to be a very different Sam Darnold you'll see. You'll probably see more of the Sam Darnold that we saw on the Jets and the Carolina Panthers than what we're seeing on the Vikings. Because I think the scheme of things that Minnesota has allows any quarterback to come in and thrive as long as you're a thrower of the football. And I think I like the point that you made that Kyler Murray being traded needs to happen sooner than later because what's going on in Arizona is very Kyler Murray centric. He's been doing this. We've been seeing the same style of play when he was at Cliff Kingsbury. It's just Kyler Murray trying to make plays on his own, and you need a quarterback in that system so you're able to get the ball to James Conner more, able to get the ball to Marvin Harrison more. McBride has not scored a touchdown, I believe, this entire season. So you have weapons there, but for whatever reason, they're not being then their numbers are not really showing or showcasing what the Cardinals have been doing this year, which is winning more games than I think any of us. I can only speak for myself, and more games than I believe that they should have won this year. So I think moving him is the right thing. I don't know who for, though, because the Cardinals the last couple years have been Kyler Murray or die. And if he's not on that football field, I don't know what that Cardinals offense could look like.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just think the Cardinals are a very frustrating team in the NFL to watch because you would have episodes like against the Jets where Kyler Murray was probably the best quarterback that week. Clearly as a dynamic runner, thrower of the football. Clearly, we have evidence prior to the NFL that he win in the highest of levels, Heisman, high school, but we haven't seen him accumulate that into the NFL. And he hasn't been winning in the NFL. Let's just call a spade a spade. He hasn't won in the playoffs in the NFL. He's been very inconsistent in the NFL. And we know his talent. We know what our eyes tell us. He could be one of the best quarterbacks and potentially be an MVP, in a season that goes well and they actually win. But they haven't been winning consistently enough for him to even get an MVP conversation. And this year is no different. And in the division that is really up for grabs, that is in this division, that really anybody can come get it if they want it. If you want it, come get it. He's not getting it. And it's unfortunate because you should not be losing to Seattle. With all due respect to Seattle, I understand how potent they could be offensively at times with their wide receivers. But, man, defensively, you can carve them up. Right? The 49ers are desperate. They're a wounded animal on the side of the road. You could run them over. You could finish them, put them out of their misery. And they actually beat them this year. I'll give them that. But do I trust them to beat them again? I'm not sure if I do because they haven't been consistent and they have the talent. The talent is there, but they're not putting it together. And I think when addressing Zach's take about potentially trading Kyler Murray, if they feel that he cannot be the franchise guy of the future, then maybe that's something that they should look in, especially when he is still having a little bit of stock left in the NFL to be a potential starter. I think you jump on that now rather than later.
Because it wasn't that long ago, this guy was a dark horse MVP candidate. But the last 3 weeks, he's just really fallen off a cliff. And it's super unfortunate. And also, again, I just think, I think there's a good chance Justin Fields is going to be a starter for some team next year. The same thing, obviously, for Sam Darnold. Aaron Rodgers, there are going to be conversations about him. I just think there are so many guys that you could kind of put in that category of are they a starter? Are they not a starter? Kyler Murray is definitely a starter, and I think there will be teams willing to give up legitimate draft capital for him. And if you're Arizona, considering how poorly the contract might age, that's something you have to hop on, especially if you could get legitimate draft capital back. And I don't love the combination with him and Gannon. Zay's right. They call plays the same exact way right now than they did with Cliff because Kyler plays a certain style of football. I would like to see Gannon and their OC Drew Petzig with a different style of quarterback. I think they could make it work.
And let's just have the honest conversation. Is the NFL too big for Kyler Murray? I hate to put it like that, but even that interception that he had last week, I didn't think he could see the field. I'm not sure if it was a bad read more so than it was he just couldn't see the field in the middle of the field. It might be too big for him. So we do have to come to that realization. Not everybody's Drew Brees, not everybody's Wilson, that can not have the physical attributes as far as size and can still win effectively at the highest of levels. Not everybody's like that, So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another episode of 99 Pod. It was a good stacked show. And as always, I'm looking forward to the next.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.